As the days go on, it just gets harder and harder and harder to be an outright fan, supporter, even acknowledge the existence of Arnold Schwarzenegger post the gubernatorial stint. Like, he just keeps saying the dumbest stuff that I've ever heard somebody say in their life. Listen, man, you guys have seen it multiple times over, and it does bear repeating. Okay, I've got that picture right there. I see it every single day. I understand it's kind of hack for any amateur aspiring bodybuilder or anything like that, but he's the best to have ever done it. 100%. He's a legend for a reason and a big inspiration multiple times over. He lives a very motivating, inspirational life. A lot of the stuff that he says back in the cut is very actionable information. But now, like, I don't know what you're doing, man. Like, I see this quote right here. Like, you can take the good faith interpretation of it. So the first time that I read it, I'll just walk you through what I was thinking here. Arnold Schwarzenegger says, heaven is a fantasy. Anyone tells you something else is a fucking liar. You're the fucking liar. I don't believe in heaven. That's not necessarily what he's saying. It's just maybe the concrete definitions of heaven, maybe those aren't clearly defined. What it means to you could mean something different to this sect of Christianity. What it could mean to the Jews is just a whole pile of money. And what it could mean to Islam is just, well, we need not get into that. Anyways, nicest, shiniest rocks to throw at the dumbest, most scandalous e-thoughts. There we go. That's a nicer way to put it. But trying to be good faith about this stuff, that's what I'm trying to think. But it's probably not going to end up being that. Oh, man. Arnold Schwarzenegger thinks the idea of heaven is just a fantasy. The Terminator star, 75, spoke about his thoughts on what happens after death with actor Danny DeVito, 78, posed the question, what's in the future for us? It reminds me of Howard Stern's question to me. Tell me, Governor, what happens to us when we die? I said, nothing. You're 6 feet under. Anyone who tells you something else is a fucking liar, Schwarzenegger said in a conversation for Interview magazine. No, okay, so I put more thought into that answer than he did. Not like you just die. It's like a light switch. It just goes off and then you're asleep forever. Don't worry, it's great. I said, we don't know what happens with the soul and all this spiritual stuff, with like crystals and tarot cards. I don't believe in it. It's a bit wild. That I'm not an expert in. But I know the body, as we see each other now, we never see each other again like that. Okay, very intellectual, Christ almighty. The Predator star admitted that speaking about death makes him uncomfortable. Yeah, because he's 75 years old and he used to look like that. Well, that's Twins, obviously. That's one of the Arnold films that I haven't seen. But I've seen all the hits, right? Conan, Terminator, the only two that matter. Commando, True Lies, Total Recall, Jingle All the Way. I think I even went to theaters to see Jingle All the Way. When people talk about, I see them again, I'll see them again in heaven, it sounds so good, but the reality is we won't see each other again after we're gone. That's the sad part. I know people feel comfortable with death, but I don't. It's funny, he's saying, okay, if anybody makes declarative statements about the afterlife, don't take them seriously. But here he is saying, no, it's just basically you're done. Okay, fantastic. The former governor, California governor, said he lost about 15 friends from back in his bodybuilding days. Yeah, all of their hearts blew up. Not because of the jab or anything, different kinds of jabs, in the last 2 decades, and said the tragic news forced him to shift his perspective on the afterlife. Yeah, but, okay, I have to shift my perspective on the afterlife because all of your friends are up there? What? No, okay, interesting. To me, heaven is where I put the person who I love dearly, who is kind, who's generous, who's made a difference in my life, in other people's lives. Okay, fantastic. So he's got a different definition of heaven. If you would just stop there, that would have been great, instead of saying, nobody knows, just shut up, it's whatever. And it's like, okay, Arnold, okay. It's embarrassing enough, but you can come back from that. But no, in more recent days, he had to continue to flap his fucking Austrian gums and double down on some of his more stupid fucking comments, because he's been fairly outlandish when it comes to specifically the jab. Yeah, I screw your freedoms. It's like, oh, Arnie, why did you have to say that? And then for you to also double, triple, quadruple down, I forget what level we're on at this point in time when it comes to January 6th. I was the worst day. My dad was a Nazi. And it's like, wait a minute, you actually came out forthright and said it this time around? Everybody's just been poking fun at it. There's a way to own the joke, but for you to now weaponize it and say that I the man with the buffalo hat. He went in, he was basically like the leading stormtroopers in there. I know I was there. Wait, what? I know this because of my Nazi father. Arnold Schwarzenegger says he stands by his comparison of January 6th Capitol riots to Kristallnacht. You know, the night of the knives, the fire, and the Kristallnacht. He was something. My dad was there. He was throwing cocktails. It was great. They had a big party, the Nazi party, on Jewish people. Sorry, what? Because a lot of people in America today are misled. Oh, man. I'm not getting rid of my picture. It's framed, it's matted, it's nice. It was very expensive. But here's the thing. I can divorce these statements by an idiot from that guy right there. That guy who was at the peak of his game, at the top of his game. That was, everybody knows, I think, at this point in time. That was one of the opening scenes from Pumping Iron in 1975 before he would go on and win his fifth Mr. Olympia. Yeah, because you come back in 1980 and then win his sixth. Fifth. Oh man, I need to brush up on my Arnie trip. I think he's a 6-time winner, right? Yeah, because Phil Heath is 7 and Lee Haney and Ronnie Coleman are 8. Yeah. I got it. I know my bodybuilding. But you can also spot the similarities in that statement right there. I know this because I'm appealing to authority, which is kind of weird to put the Nazis as an authority in this situation, but you do you. And a lot of people in America today are being misled. There is no heaven, I know, because people are there and no, you make declarative statements. I heard it in the movie once that only the bad people, they deal in absolutes. Like very profound stuff, Arnold. Former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger joined this week's episode of CNN's Who's Talking to Chris Wallace. Nobody who's listening to Chris Wallace, even fewer people, and defended his previous comparison to the January 6th Capitol riots, to Kristallnacht, violent attacks on the Jewish people. How far down do you want to make this analogy go? Okay, so if the protesters on January 6th were attacking, for your analogy's sake, the Jews in the Capitol, are you going literally with that one, or are you just looking at the different donation? Anyways, Schwarzenegger, 73. I thought he was 75. Did he just get de-aged? What the fuck is going on? Made his original comments comparing the two events in a January 2021 video, where he issued the dramatic speech slamming Trump and comparing MAGA January 6th riot to Nazi takeover. This is native Austria. Yeah, we know history, and it's a very interesting glossing over of certain important topics. Anywho, CNN anchor Chris Wallace played a portion of a speech from the interview with Schwarzenegger on Friday before asking him whether he still stands by his original statement. Yes, it was a very great video that I did. I remember I had the Conan sword and I took it out and it's, we can't stand with this, but look at my sword, it's so great. Now, the Night of Broken Glass, or Kristallnacht, was in 1938, when Nazi sympathizers ransacked Jewish stores and synagogues and schools. Oh, Wallace said, oh, God damn it. That's right, now I'll just do my droopy dog impression. Do you still think it's fair to compare Kristallnacht to the Nazi attack on the Jews to what happened on January 6th? The former Republican governor, sure thing, replied, yes, absolutely. I mean, come on. They are, look at that. The way that they are hitting that window, it's basically like somebody cracking a Goldstein skull. I can't believe it. It's crazy. Very similar. Look at the broken glass. Oh, look at the two pictures. You can't tell the difference. If they were both in black and white, I couldn't tell at all. It's so tragic what happened. I mean, I think that is, of course, a different time and all that. And it's kind of like the threat to democracy and the threat to what happens to people when they're lied to. Cool. Which lies, Arnold? So we can talk about them now on YouTube. Which ones? Which ones do you want to talk about? Just asking. When he claimed that the American people are being misled in the same manner of his father, a former Nazi, was misled during World War II. And this is why I compared it to that. Because in Kristallnacht, I know my father, who was part of the Nazi party. They were lied to. They were misled. And I think a lot of people in America today are being misled. Who? Who specifically? Kristallnacht, yeah, referred to the Night of Broken Glass. Yeah, all that stuff. Okay, anti-Jewish pogroms took place throughout Germany on November 9th and 10th. See, that's where your analogy falls apart. It was a multi-day affair, okay, whereas January 6th was just an afternoon. Nazi mobs, SS troops, and ordinary citizens torched, vandalized, and not completely destroyed. Oh, if not completely destroyed, thousands of Jewish homes, 6 million, but I think it was only about 250,000 homes. Schools, synagogue, jokes, people, we got them. Synagogues, businesses, hospitals, and cemeteries. On January 6, 2021, one person was fatally shot by a Capitol police officer during the Capitol riots. Protester Ashley Babbitt. Yeah, exactly. Once again, just a one-to-one comparison you got there, Arnie. Oh my god. 4 other people died of non-related causes, but we'll go ahead and try to lump it in there because MAGA man bad. Capitol riots on January 6th resulted in $1.5 million worth of damages, but we don't want to go ahead and draw the correlation to the Black Lives Matter riots that ended up taking place throughout most of 2020. The summer of love, baby, which was what, $1.5 billion? But yeah, some broken glass and some dinged up bronze sconces. That's worthy of comparison, right? Schwarzenegger said his father and other men of his childhood were shattered mentally by the guilt of what they saw and did in the 2021 video. Sure thing. Gustav Schwarzenegger was wounded in combat on the Eastern Front in 1942, having served in the Panzer Group as a military policeman in Poland, France, Belgium, Ukraine, Lithuania, and finally, modern-day Russia. Oh, so he was definitely in charge of some of those camps that were out there. The ones where you focus really hard. Now, I've never shared this so publicly because it's a painful memory, but my father would come drunk once or twice a week and he would scream and hit us and scare my mother. Yeah, exactly, because he was doing some actually reprehensible shit by some people who were also committing some actual atrocities. Again, how is this a fair comparison or an accurate comparison to what went down on January 6th? It's totally not. And Arnold, love you, man. I love you, man, as an actor, as a bodybuilder, as an intellectual, or as a politician. Oof. Really make it tough to try to separate the two whenever you say stupid shit like that. Fuck's sakes, man. But with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.